My name is Kara Warner. Psyched to be here. Wish we had like 4 hours to talk about this film. Sadly, not that many, but I'm so excited to introduce this incredible panel. Hopefully we'll get everything we want to know and then be able to shoot some questions your way. So, without further ado, may I please welcome your director, Chad Stahelski, stunt coordinator, Scott Rogers, fight coordinator, Jeremy Marinas, star Shamier, Hiroyuki Sanada, and Ian McShane.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Wherever you want to be.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Chad, I'm going to start with you as we get settled.
I don't mind. Let my casket.
Hello.
There we go. At least the sound is working. That's a huge win to start. Chad, for you, how many? No, please go ahead.
How are you? What's your
I'm
name?
good. I'm Karen.
Karen.
English,
Yes.
English
Hired
gentleman.
gun. How long were some of these ideas percolating? Like, have you always wanted to do certain things in this film, in this franchise, that you finally got to do here?
I think action set pieces or storylines or
Both.
characters.
Both. I'm just curious.
I
about
think
both.
most of the characters are pretty iconic. Obviously, Winston, Ian McShane has been around. We love to anchor things on the Winston character. I think Shamier's character, Tracker, has been around in our minds for at least 2-3 years before we wrote the script. We just like that transient kind of guy going around. We always love that character.
I died in an earlier draft.
Yeah, we did. We killed him like that. We're not scared to kill him, John Wick. And obviously, we've known Hiroyuki forever, and we've always wanted to work with him. I think we tried on John Wick 3, and that timing didn't work out, so we're like, dude, there's definitely a Japanese portion. We knew we were going to do Japan in this for sure. As far as the set pieces, Scott, Jeremy, and I, we've been involved in literally all the John Wicks. So trying to do things, how do you keep reinventing fight scenes, either with a vehicular thing or the top shot, or anything like that. They're all ideas that percolate. But honestly, how it all comes together doesn't really happen till you see the magic and when we're all in the room. I think each one of the cast member guys and my stunt team here, they all bring their stuff to it too. I mean, you can ask Shamier how many times we go over the Tracker's wardrobe. And Shamir's like, fuck this, I got my own. He made his own journal. He came like with Hiroyuki did his own work. Ian comes with his own props. Like they all, I'd like to. The great thing about being a director, I get credit for everybody's ideas. but in part, I'm maybe come up with a small piece of them.
Nice. Well, I love, we mentioned the newcomers to the franchise. Was there an official welcome or hazing to welcome them into the
No, I'm so shocked they decided to come. When everybody says yes,
He was worried they'd leave.
Yeah, it's about keeping them, not getting them.
Well, Shamier, one thing I love that you said potentially about your backstory, this might not be accurate, is that Tracker could have been with John Wick from the beginning. Like, he could have been in the first film. Can you talk a little bit about what you love about his kind of mystique and his history?
Sure.
You remember that?
It's been quite some time. No, I mean, this franchise is a star within its own, right? And so when I get the call to be a part of something like this, it's a pinch me moment for sure. And so I obviously everything is motivated by insecurity and fear of not getting fired. Thankfully I wasn't. But that work comes with, the foundation that I've built over the years as an artist. And so the short answer is, yeah, and others. I just wanted to build a backstory when I spoke with Chad, who was very open and receptive to what I wanted to bring and specific to what you asked. I had this idea that what if the Tracker was actually tracking John Wick from the first movie, like watching documentaries, kind of like a case study, like a criminologist almost. And in the fourth movie is when he decided to wanna, okay, it's gonna be time. So in my trailer, I actually had photos of all the characters throughout all the films, and just like things on repeat and replay. One, just so there's so much mythology to this world that this team has built. And I wanted to step in it and make sure that I was on my P's and Q's, because these guys are all Avengers, and I was coming in and wanted to be like, all right, I don't want to get fired. So yeah, I built that story, and thankfully Chad said, Shamier, you're not crazy. I like it. You know, so
I like learning that after the fact because I think if you watch it again, this movie's very rewatchable. I'm sure many of you have seen it. I just like that layer because it totally works. Mr. Sanada,
Yep.
what were you excited to bring into this? I was wondering, like, what skill you got to really showcase of your own, and one that maybe you got to develop and blend with some of the incredible choreography that you get to do.
Yeah, actually, when Chad told me that about my roles, and then from the script, I felt he needs some kind of samurai spirit in the modern world. Not only the brotherhood important, but plus try to bring in to this movie about samurai spirit. That's why he chosen sacrifice, and I think he's very happy. He done a good job for me.
He's also literally like a doctorate in Japanese history. So every day on set we get our Japanese cultural stuff, right? But I think like every movie we try to go like, you can see the Japanese and the Asian references, at least thematically, in most of the John Wicks. So we really wanted to punch this home. Again, it doesn't translate. Maybe Hiro can help too. When you go into like Bushido, or like what we focus on, this treatise of Hagakure, or like Secret Code or Secret Whispers, or like The Way of Dying, or How to Prepare Yourself for Death, that was the main thematic. That's how we started the script, just on that one word and phrase. And again, it can mean many, many different things. It's old slang, but talking to Hiro a lot helps us kind of keep that. So you can tell it's a cross between a Western and a samurai movie. So thematically, he kept us on point.
Yeah, and also I respect John Wick world. I'm a big fan of from the beginning, and that's why what the audience want from this movie. So not necessarily really Tokyo, Osaka, or something, you know, in this world. John Wick world plus mental Japanese way or something. East meets West. We try to find the best balance on set, and then about the choreograph, I try to use my skill as a Japanese and collaborate with Donnie Yen. He has own style, so it was a great collaboration. We put idea together, and then Chad always welcome. Okay.
He's being nice. What he means is they practiced for months and then I threw it all out on the day we made it. That's what he's trying to say. But he's being very nice. But yes, that is. I apologize.
You can speak to that.
No.
We choreographed, then I go like, nah, we're gonna make this new.
Yeah, he gave us a
So they're very
great
good on the spot.
playground, and then we are enjoying, enjoying, and then he's happy, we're happy. So it was a fun collaboration on set every day.
That's a fun for Scott and Jeremy. When you have some new blood, what kind of gets exciting for you to maybe be able to do?
Well, it's just always fun to kind of experience or explore how to do what we've been doing since one in different perspectives, right? So you have Akira, who's following the footsteps of her father, and she's a little bit cattier, she's faster, and she's using the whole set to, run around. And then obviously Sanada-san's character, it's very precise and old school and has a very, deliberate way to move. So when we get to do that with everybody else, also Shamier comes in and he's this jacked guy with boxing skills and Wing Chun skills. All we had to do was kind of teach him how to pull out the gun from the bag, and everything else was easy. So that's just really
And I didn't mean to
fun.
cut all your action though. I gotta be honest, there was one knife fight that Shamier did that was awesome. And it got cut out of one sequence.
You mean the movie could have been longer?
Yeah. I was just trying to explain to Shamier.
It was the sacrificial lamb.
It was so bad. It was part of the water set, and it was already going on for 15. I'm gonna say this because
Can I see it, by the way? I haven't seen it yet.
I know.
Special edition.
We haven't even seen it.
Special edition.
We met in Toronto for the premiere, and I was like, I had to sit next to Shamier. I was like, oh, he's gonna know I cut out his one leg.
I was like, Mom, I have a great knife scene. You want to check it out? When it's coming up, I promise it's coming up, Mom.
That's so bad, 'cause
Maybe
there's
it's at the
nothing,
end.
and no matter how much I say, you did great, it was awesome, he's saying, did I do something wrong, I was like, no, I couldn't do a 4-hour movie.
I mean, I think we buy a director's
Really?
cut, maybe,
I
right?
tried, they fight me.
Mr. McShane, for Winston, did you have any requests for this 4th film for Winston?
I never have any requests of any film. I've never once spoken to Chad about what Winston should be or whatever. I let them write the script, and then when we come to write, and then Keanu and you and me talk about, we edit they tend to make me sound like I'm Shakespeare.
We just know when everything's going south, we know we're gonna give like, oh God, the story, the plot's gotta give it to Winston.
Go back to me again. But thank God they don't write exposition.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you don't need. There's a few clues in this about where Winston's, you don't know who he is. You still don't know who he is, And you still don't know who he is in Ballerina, which is out, this year, which is, God bless you, Lance. Let's have a round of applause for Lance. Came as a shock to us all. That's the only thing preparation Lance and I used to talk about, our relationship. Just say that they'd met like 30 years ago. 40 years ago when I was in the MI6 and he was in CIA or whatever.
Right.
Disregarding whatever they did to the Continental TV show.
We don't talk about that.
We don't, exactly. Nobody's ever seen it. Have you seen it? No, I don't.
What are you talking about?
Exactly, yeah. But Winston, it's like it's always nice to be asked back again, and I see Keanu and whatever, we go over the script, and it's sort of, my character and the Bowery King tend to, we sort of ground the film for as much as. But I don't think the film, I've got to tell you, it's not my genre usually. The first one, we all got together, it was like an indie movie we made in New York at Thanksgiving, right, Chad?
Yep.
That's how they got us there. Spent a week in New York at Thanksgiving, it'll be great, and everybody was there. We did it. You have a feeling it was a really good, tight, noir script, which it was. The second one went out on its own, then suddenly you're into 3 and 4. And I'm going to say, the 4th one, I think, it's really a great movie, Chad. You made,
Great
no,
cast.
really. I think the 4th movie really, and I sat there, I watched it I never saw anything until the 3 premieres we went.
Yeah.
London, New York, and LA, and every time I thought it was better than the last time. So I'm a fan of it.
Could have gone the other way.
Thanks for asking me.
I've always wondered, was your delivery of Jonathan, was that you or was that in the script originally?
I don't know where
The
that came
first one, I think
from.
it
We
was
vary,
you.
don't
No,
we?
we decided early on that you were calling him Jonathan. Like,
We've gone
you-
various
yeah.
times because I call him John, and then you've also got the thing which we added at the end. I suggested like the tattoo which you see on the grave, that Winston's got a tattoo, and also there's various hints. Who is he? You still don't know what his relationship with John, or is John dead? They all say he is. You don't know. I've got a new idea for John Wick 5. So I'll tell you.
Pass it to Hero and pass down to Shamier. Just keep it.
None of these people are in it.
Just keep it thrown.
None of these people. There's no action. It's the Euro noir version.
Drama. John Wick 4.
Find out the real backstory. I'm wondering, for all of you, and then obviously our wonderful creators, you can comment, is there a scene or sequence that shocked you when you saw it finished, or that you wished you had been in?
No, actually, if I may, I'm always shocked because
Minus the
it's
knife
always
fight.
better than I ever imagined. The action I think Scott does, and all these gentlemen, thank God I don't have to do anything like that. But they are all extraordinary. And they all come from some kind of reality. It never appears as if it's gratuitous, and you have different styles, which I know nothing about, but he's doing, what Shamier did, and what Scott does, and Jeremy. I just found it extraordinary. I found that the best sequence for me, the most extraordinary, was the what do you call it, Arc de Triomphe. The driving, I think, that really struck me. The whole driving sequence. And Keanu's not a bad driver, by the way, is he?
No,
He did a lot of that, didn't
That was everything but the crash was Keanu Reeves. All the driving.
he? I'm done now. Thank you, God.
You have the video to prove it.
Aside from Shamir's knife fight, is there anything else you wished you had been in? Or sequence, or something that just blew you away? Because I think you know, everyone works so hard making your own scenes. I'm just wondering if when you finally saw the finished cut, if something really surprised you or blew you away.
Okay, well, for me,
Yes.
honestly, I'm always shocked when something works. Like they always seem like everyone thinks we have a plan. We have no plan. Like honestly, like we write the script, we have a pretty good idea, but like the amount I go into, like Shamier with the Notebook, just when he came in with his version of the Notebook, and when they put on the costumes, and when Ian puts on the cravat and all this stuff, you start re-envisioning things, and they bring it to life. We have rough ideas, but I kind of let the crew, the cast. It's not. You'd be surprised how the choreography works. It's very different than most people think. It's very organic. It's very alive. I think one of my favorite things is the first time we block a scene. Like we all have this page. We've done read-throughs, but it's once you're on set. Like when we with Ian and Keanu went around the Roosevelt Island, talking about the mission. I mean,
Well, the one that should have been shot in Osaka.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one. But we ran out of money in time.
I think it was COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah,
was.
it was all right. But when we did that, like you don't know how it's going to come together. It was done as a reshoot, so you kind of block it and you see the guys get closer every time, and you choreograph. Like I said, we don't choreograph in the Arc de Triomphe with 200 cars. We don't have the rehearsal time for that. So you do your best to guess, and then you get there, and then we start rehearsing, and we start going, and it takes on. These guys will tell you we have a rough plan, but it always goes to shit, and then we start choreographing and fixing because we have to deal with things like rain and dogs and cars and logistics, and things don't work, and you get more because you haven't seen it encapsulated in a true vision yet. So you make it organic. I do the same thing with characters. For me, the biggest surprise in the whole movie was just the end scene, the duel. That's one of the first scenes we ever wrote was a duel, but Keanu and I were both like, oh, this is gonna be so boring. It's gonna be like that. And the whole thing was, do we get the emotional punch out of it? And to be honest, that was the last scene that we ended up putting in the cut. We kept working and working and working and working it. We kept restructuring it. And funny enough, we shot, what was it? It was like the last day in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
It was raining. Everybody had to go home. We're like,
Oh, it was a brutal 6
It was
days.
brutal outside at Sacré-Cœur.
Even the priest at Sacré-Cœur wanted to kick you out.
Everybody
He said, no, even if you offer me $1 million, no more nights. No more.
You should see my line producer literally in front of Sacré-Cœur arguing with the bishop. It was literally a real kickoff. I had Shamier, what was it, like the last 15 minutes on the last hour on the last day. So we put Shamier on a bench with the dog, and it's a camera, 2 cameras in your back, talking Shamier through the whole thing. Like literally, we gotta go like, oh, I'm gonna talk him through this 15-minute fight, and he's got to go through all these things, all his range of emotions, like happy, sad, oh, John, my God, and it wasn't until we figured out that order, and it was, you guys saw at the end, it's when the dog goes, and shot, and Cameron's got the stare. Just by putting those few shots and figuring out that order, all of a sudden the scene worked. You're like, oh, you feel bad for John, but you're not watching John, you're watching him and the dog. Go boom, you got Shamier cracking the beer, and one of the things you'll see in John Wick's like, we'll do a pretty intense action, we'll do an intense scene, but then the old Buster Keaton mentality is give you a laugh right at the end. Just do the pressure release. And until we found him cracking the beer and going, that was pretty good. That was funny. Like that gave everybody a release, and as soon as the whole theater went, woo! We're like, no, fuck, that scene works. But it wasn't until we looked at it. So that's the one that shocked me the most. And that's what you want the most.
Happy accidents, you know?
Exactly, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Shamier, are you still friendly with any of your furry co-stars?
That and every furry co-star around the world. I mean, dogs is like, I love dogs, and just so you know, those little Belgian Malinois, for those of you who don't know or know. But yeah, I love dogs, and I feel like every dog lover, every dog owner comes up to me now and goes, wait a minute, you're trying. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Did you feel, because he did a lot of work, you went, got to set early to learn, you learned some of the skills with the dogs. Is anything like practical, translate in real life that you can?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about animals, which I think is really interesting, I mean, up here it's make-believe, right? We're in costumes, we all the stunts and stuff, it looks really real, but at the end of the day, it's not real. Well, some of it is, to be honest. We have the bruises to prove it. But with the animals, they're just animals. Like, sometimes they'll be peeing and sometimes they'll be doing other things, and we just got to deal with that. And so the commands, the jumps, all those things are real things. Those are real commands. Those are real skill sets that these animals have. And so for me, it was my first time working with dogs, let alone animals in a movie. And so, everybody would have their days of like 9 to 5 of the fight training, and then I'd have to take an extra few hours to go work with the animals. Right, and it was such an experience for me to be so intimate with them and to learn about them and respect them, and it was great. I mean, it was such a great team of folks that helped put that together. But that was definitely an intangible moment that I have so much BTS footage of me and the dogs hanging out, going for walks and all that.
We'll cut it with a knife scene, and then you'll have a real.
No, I think W.C. Fields was right. He said never work with dogs or children or any animals. We had but listen, it's very difficult. That dog, those dogs are extraordinarily, frisky, aren't they? I mean, remember we had the 3-page scene at the end of John Wick 3, which we both know we'd never be used, but between Allie and me, she sat there with 2 dogs. We had 3 pages of dialogue. So it'd be a page and a half through, and suddenly one would go, and take off. And all you have to do, dogs on the set, they're not allowed. They are the stars
They're
of the
the
movie,
stars,
right?
for sure.
You can't do anything. Because, they're so sort of, but they did sat there. Anyway, we never saw the scene because it never came out.
Yeah.
But they are straight, they're Belgian sheepdogs is what they are,
That
correct?
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the very clever dogs. They are.
The Ferrari of dogs is what I call them.
But they're like, again, it brings out character. I
Yeah.
think if you're willing to put through the patience, I like it. Believe me, there's times I want to shoot myself, but I want to shoot myself with people sometimes.
I mean, I'm curious for Scott and Jeremy. He's talking about the car rehearsals or throwing everything out and then restructuring things. When you watch the completed film, does any of it give you like a little PTSD, or is it always you're happy?
The minute it starts, I'm fully in shock, having done
Got the
2 of
sweats
these
and the
now.
shakes.
Yeah, and when they were like, "No, we're not doing any more John Wick," I'm like, "Great." No, the car stuff. I'll be honest, I don't do the fighting. That's up to these amazing, talented. The choreography. I'm lucky to throw a kick. I do the traditional stuff, the fights, the horse stuff, not the fights, the cars, the stuff. But the car stuff's a whole different animal. There's really not improvisation there. When you're dealing with, 20 people driving at each other, it's 50, 60 miles an hour, you don't get to go, yeah, suddenly let's go over there. So, and, it's really a testament to Keanu and his, we literally, I just took a page from what they do with him fighting, which is they train him. And I remember on 3, Chad was in New York and they were training Keanu in LA, and Chad has a camera up in the little corner, and they'd be getting text, don't have him kick. Because he doesn't kick well. So so it's the same with the car stuff. What he doesn't do well, you just don't do. You do what he does do well. And Tanner Fouts, who's this world famous driver, is and a wonderful person, just trained him, and we're like, wow, I think he's going to be good at that. And and the whole part where he picks up the gun, and like Chad said, he ultimately gets credit, but then I get the credit that he doesn't get. But it came from Tanner. Tanner's like, well, the door's off. I think we can teach him to drift this thing and pick up the gun. And so the car thing, and I'm the most proud of that is the fact that it fit. It wasn't a Jason Bourne car chase in a John Wick movie. It was a John Wick car sequence in a John Wick movie.
Absolutely. Incredible stuff. Jeremy, how about you? Is there like the crowning achievement for you in this one, or PTSD?
Well, like Chad said, I was just surprised it works, because with fight scenes, it's people, and you can make adjustments in your footwork, and if you get punched in the face, it's no big deal. Now I've got to choreograph Keanu weaving through a bunch of cars, where if they make an adjustment, that could be somebody getting hit with 2,000 pounds of metal, right? So, Scott set us up with our team. We had 3 stunt teams on that one, and just because we had a lot of people who kind of had their head on straight, as much as they could, they're stunt guys, but everybody kind of had one goal, because nobody knew how to get there, so we were all trying to figure it out together. So the fact that we made it work and nobody, got hurt, that was pretty good.
If you watch a lot, we do choreography much like live show stuff. We do it in layers. What you don't see, to these guys' credit, there's ideas. We know we want to do certain types of choreography, but then you have to get the cars going. How do you make the cars stick? What you don't see on that, Scott came up with the idea. We have, I think it was closer to 5 countries and stunt teams, 5 different languages, and you can't make a mistake. because what you don't see are the 2 camera teams that are running through traffic with them, and the dog trainers. So it's not just the stunt people; it's the camera crews. So with 7 lanes of traffic, each lane was coned off, and we VFX out the cones. So stay in the red lane, the green lane, the blue lane. It's like playing Twister. Keanu knew which dots to hit. You know, these guys came up with that, and then we helped wipe them out. But each driver and everybody has their own thing, and we have to rehearse things. It takes weeks of rehearsals just to get what you saw without hitting anybody. So these guys spend a lot of time.
I would like to say, and I think Jeremy would agree, the beauty, and I think that ultimately started with Chad and everybody, all stunt men around the world are huge fans of this franchise, obviously, and it comes from Chad. But everyone, much like Shamier, is honored or a hero to be on the movie. So the stunt teams that came, everybody brought their A game. I mean, they instead of it being like trying to outdo each other, everybody just tried to do a better job. So as performers, they weren't all SAG members, but they were all performers, and everybody just tried to do the best that they could. And like to the point where like, no, that you're gonna get hurt. We don't want you to do that.
I love how everyone has a showcase. I think, especially with regard to stunts and like Hiro and Shamier. I think everyone gets a show-stopping moment. Don't you all just want to like learn a little gun fu? Watching these, I get a little overconfident watching John Wick, being like, what could I do? Not well.
You see the finished product. What you don't see is the avenue of broken dreams, failures, and mistakes. What you see are the ideas that worked. There's a lot of choreography ideas and stunts that didn't work.
It all works for us. I could keep talking, but I bet you guys have a few questions. Ooh, just because you were the first in the way back, go for it.
John Wick and 8711 style in general has become such a gold standard of stunts, which is still not recognized by the Academy. Mr. Stahelski, I know that you advocated for that. Can you speak to a little bit what you're looking to accomplish within the stunt community by getting that recognition?
And the progress of that campaign. There's some good things to share, right?
Yeah, no, it's going. Like, look, a lot of it's not, they say, we say, it's not. Stunts don't deserve it. It's not like from Scott and my generation. I wouldn't know a stunt performer that really. They don't do it for the awards, obviously. Like most of the people we know, like the ninja aspect of it. It's kind of like the cool thing to be. But as far as the Academy goes, we all connected. I think like what is it, about a year and a half ago, they approached me saying, hey, how can we make this happen? At the same time I was trying to approach them. I think everybody knows stunts is a weird department. If you want best costume, it's very easy to see the costumes up there. Stunts is we interact with literally every department. Wardrobe, to make the hair with doubles, and our whole gig is to be hidden. Like, in a big feature film, especially CG heavy, some are digi-doubles, something like face replaces. Now, like, our whole thing is to be not seen and still deliver great action. So everybody at the Academy that we've talked to wants to include stunts in it. They're trying to work that out right now, but it's not as easy as you think. You just don't. Stunt Oscar, sure, okay, great, that's super. We're a very effective department. We're part of the filmmaking process. Yes, I think everybody here, yes, they deserve recognition. It's just fair if everybody else gets it, sure, why not, right? But there are issues that don't exist in the other departments. I would throw it back to you. Okay, stunts are in the Oscars. Who do you give it to? You see these two right now. There's stunt rigger, stunt driver, okay.
Hundreds.
Yeah, you got
Hundreds.
We're probably the most collaborative department out there, and probably one of the most fragmented. Like, if I'm doing a big budget act, and I'm not talking just a stunt. I'm not talking like best high fall. You could do that way. Like, what's the best stunt in a movie? Best high fall, best car turnover, do you give it to the performer, the guy that choreographed it, the guy that came up with it, the editor, the stunt coordinator, the fight coordinator? Or do you give it to best stunt ensemble? Do you give it to best stunt sequence? How would you find what's best? Do you give it in a blockbuster movie that makes $300 million? Or do you give it in a low budget indie where the guy lights on fire for 2 minutes and sets a world record? Like, what's the standard? And the question is, we still don't have the answer right now. That's something the Academy, myself, and other stunt professionals are talking about. Like,
they still haven't figured it out with what's the best movie either.
No. So McShane's point, if they haven't got that one, like, we're just not
Best
a matter-
comedy? I mean, what the hell is that about? Best film that made most money? Best little film that made most money without insulting anybody? What, I mean, come on.
I mean,
it's all the closest to the compromise.
we're not just a taste thing. We're an actual logistical challenge to figure out who did. Like, what is a stunt? Was it best stunt ensemble? Like you do the producers? Do you give it to, like, if Jeremy gets the credit, Scott gets the credit, and say one of the other guys gets best stunt rigging, do you just give it to all three? And what about the guy that performs it? He's not a coordinator, but he actually did the one gag. Or, you know what I mean? There's issues there. And it takes smart people being open to be in a room and have a smart discussion. And up until now, that just hasn't happened. You know, just both sides going, it's not an argument. It's a logistical of how and who and what's fair. And also, you gotta remember, we're supposed to be hidden. Most people in the room, like, I could ask a lot of studio heads right now, how do you do half of what we do? They'd be clueless. I don't know, just make
They
it
haven't
up.
got a clue about anything
Not a
anyway.
clue. They just, like, that's the truth. Like, not a lot of people wanna know how the sausage is made. That's the truth.
Don't ask.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not really your responsibility. You want to be entertained. Our job is to provide that. That's why we're the specialists. But like at the end of the day, the people judging what is and is not a stunt, they may not, in our minds, know what that is. What's the qualification? If I've never done high diving, should I judge it? Should I be one of the judges? Like if you've never boxed, can I be your corner judge? Like how do you know how to score? You're dealing with people that for the last 101 years of the history of cinema don't know how we even do a car turnover. They don't know. We were part of the Taurus Awards, which are the stunt inside industry stuff. We've actually seen people nominate an animatronic dummy for a stunt because we've actually had people nominate digital people for awards. These are stunt people that don't understand what can be done in a movie. So in order to give us an award, you'd have to have people on the award committee that understood what we do to even nominate them, right? That'd be pretty embarrassing if we finally get a stunt award and, you know, ILM wins it for best digital action sequence, is what we're all nervous. So the point is, the conversation has started. It's a conversation to be taken seriously. It needs smart people on both sides willing to have those hard talks and figure it out. And we're still not there yet. So.
Go ahead, Sarah.
The phenomenal job, everyone. The fact that you were saying, how can we bring, you know, get that laughter, that chuckle out, it couldn't just have been my brain, but the stair fall. I was like, oh my God, this is Dudley Moore from 10. And there were just moments, there were so many homage moments. I'm just curious if were there some specifics that you were like, here's my tip of the hat to this one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the John Wick
movie, that's all he did.
Yeah.
The freedom of John Wick, like to Ian's point, the first one was completely, we had a script. Keanu brought me a script with my partner Dave Leach at the time. We weren't on, Keanu was on first. He brought me the script where John Wick was a 65-year-old retiree veteran of the CIA, and he killed, I think, 3 people in the movie, and we went, that just won't do. We made it, I'm a big fan of Greek mythology, and that's why you see the references, and that's when Ian came out. And John Wick, I'm very proud of the first one, but the franchise you see now, really, number 2 was the most important one to me. That's when we figured out the continental, the mythology, the tone, the weirdness of the whole thing, and that's when it became, to Scott's point, reverential. It became not our own thing, it became, we're going to do a rock opera, we're going to do, you know, Odysseus, we're going to do, you know, Point Blank, Le Samurai, we're going to do Le Cirque Rouge, we're going to do an ode to Wong Kar-wai, to Zhang Yimou, we're going to do Sergio Leone, Spielberg, pick something that we montage out, like you can see that. And as we got bigger as a franchise, it's like, fuck it, let's see how far we can push this and go. So you can see Samurai, Western, Wong Kar-wai, Zhang Yimou, and my biggest influences, I still to this day watch a shit ton of Buster Keaton.
Right.
So Scott and I were at Sacré-Cœur. We knew we wanted to do the duel in front of a church, and they wouldn't let me do Notre Dame. Right? They're still fixing it. And so we scouted Sacré-Cœur, and we went up the backside. I remember Scott and I went up. We're like looking up the stairs, going, I'll take the car. And he's like, let's run up. And like you and my line producer around. Me and Scott were at the top of the stairs, going, just looking down that staircase, going, hey, William Friedkin, Exorcist, somebody's going down this. Scott and I are like, we know? I got a better idea. Let's go going down twice. And it literally happened. Like we went back and wrote the scene that day.
Nice.
Yeah, but Chad has this way of like, you know, like you can, there's lots of ideas, like you said, it's the ones that you don't see, the ones that didn't work and this and that, but every now and again there's like, I'm like, he's like, yeah, we're gonna do a full fall all the way down. I'm like, really? And then he goes, yeah, and then we're gonna go down again. And he gets this weird little evil twinkle in his eye that I'm sure all of these guys have seen.
What twinkle?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I hate to cut this off, but I told you we would not have enough time to get to everything because everyone's answers are amazing and there's a zillion questions we could continue to ask. But on the bright side, there is a reception after this, right? So thank you all so much for participating.
Thank you guys.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.